he shouldn't have been allowed to have a gun.
This is a Bill of Rights, not a Bill of Needs. It's not a bill of what I think you should have. I have a very low trust level for government, or low trust level for anybody else to take care of my family. I believe more guns means less crime, not more guns means more crime. Enshrined in our Constitution, a Bill of Rights, and that Bill of Rights says that there's a right to bear arms in defense of ourselves and in defense of our constitutional form of government, and we should have suitable weapons to do so.
What is it that the new House Speaker, the new GOP House Speaker, Mike Johnson, thinks about this tragedy last night? What did Mike Johnson have to say about all these innocent lives lost and about the gun violence in this country that is talked about way too much after a tragedy happens? What did Mike Johnson, the right-wing Christian radical, have to say about all this? Well, you won't be surprised.
This is a dark time in America. We have a lot of problems, and we're really, really hopeful and prayerful. Prayer is appropriate in a time like this, that the evil can end and this senseless violence can stop. And so that's the statement this morning on behalf of the entire House of Representatives. Everyone wants this to end, and I'll leave it there.
What a complete idiot this guy is. What a coward and what a right-wing religious zealot nut this guy is. He thinks prayer is going to stop this from happening. It's interesting. Every single time we have one of these mass shootings, you hear the same things from these right-wing buffoons, just like Mike Johnson. Thoughts and prayers. Let's talk about prayer, as if prayer would have stopped this guy from doing what he did. Let me be very clear. Prayer is not going to get AR-15s off the shelves. Prayer is not going to get illegal guns off the streets. Prayer is not going to get these right-wing idiots from making it easier for people, especially crazy people, from getting their hands on weapons of war. Mike Johnson, you are a disgrace. You are a right-wing nut, and you are despicable, is what you are. And while you were talking about prayer, Joe Biden was calling some of the family members who lost loved ones. That's far more valuable than you looking into a camera and speaking to members of the media and saying, well, it's really appropriate to prayer. We got to pray for this violence to stop. No, you idiot. Morons like you have blood on your hands because scumbags like you refuse to put laws on the books that would make it more difficult for mentally ill people and criminals to get their hands on weapons. Prayer is not the answer, you stupid buffoon. Let's talk about this guy, Mike Johnson, whose only statement today was we should all pray. You stupid idiot. You stupid idiot. You disgusting excuse for a human being. You right-wing zealot, you. You should be ashamed of yourself. This is the far majority of the alt-right Republican Party today. They'll talk about prayer, but they don't want to talk about implementing actual laws that'll save people's life. But yeah, let's just sit down and pray. Did praying help all those innocent people? The innocent African Americans that died in that church that day? Or the innocent people throughout the country that at times have been in synagogues that have been executed? Prayer didn't seem to help them. If you want to pray on your own time, you go ahead and do that, you scumbag. But if you're an actual lawmaker, it's your job to put laws on the books to make Americans safer. All I hear from these people is thoughts and prayers. Haven't you had it? I've had it. Thoughts and prayers. That's what Lauren Boebert put on her Twitter page. I'm praying for all the people. Yeah, while you're praying, your next Christmas greeting card will be your kids holding AR-15s. You evil witch, you. What have Republicans done for decades to help the American people when it comes to gun control? What have they done? This madman who committed this atrocious act of killing at least 18 people and injuring so many others was actually a firearms instructor. Yeah, he served the country in the U.S. Army Reserves. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He should have never been able to get his hands on a gun. Why, you ask? Well, he was committed to a mental health facility not that long ago for 2 weeks over the summer, and he had made threats of killing innocent people. He had told family members and friends that he was hearing things. Joining me right now on the line, his name is Eric J. Friday. He is a trial attorney specializing in family and constitutional law. And he has some expertise in the areas of firearms laws and Second Amendment rights. Very happy to have Eric joining us right now on the show. Eric, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Doing
Pre-
good.
Appreciate it, Eric. Thank you for the time. I guess my first basic question would be, what was your first reaction when you heard about this mass shooting that took place last night in Maine?
Same. My reaction is almost every time is why are more people not taking responsibility for protection of themselves and their families? I have a very low trust level for government or low trust level for anybody else to take care of my family. I believe that those in the community are in the best position. My friends, people that I associate with daily. I believe more guns means less crime, not more guns means more crime.
So let me ask you about that. If that is the case, that more guns equals less crime, why do we have virtually more violence, gun violence, than any other country in the world? Yet we have just about more guns than any other country in the world. You don't see that correlation as possibly being the opposite. You don't think you just think that's a coincidence?
Well, the problem comes in. You say more guns means more guns means more gun crime. You don't consider and I have this argument with people all the time. They don't look at the violence numbers overall in other countries. I see guns as a method to stopping crime. Period. God made men. Samuel Colt made them equal. There's a very high rate of knife violence or knife crime in other countries, especially in Great Britain, since they banned guns. So for that reason, I don't think it's a fair comparison to say what is the crime rate versus what is the gun crime
You
rate.
think it's a do you think it's a fair comparison to compare knives to an AR-15?
I think violence is violence, and I abhor all violence, and I believe that all of us should have the ability to carry the means to stop violence against ourselves
I
and our.
agree. Listen, Eric, I agree with you. We agree fundamentally. We don't want this to happen. And I guess my question to you is when I think about some of these assault weapons, as you know,
Well, I don't use that term. I'm not going to. Yeah, if you use the term assault weapon, I'm going we're talking about fully automatic weapon. Those are already illegal. I mean, if we want to talk about a modern sporting rifle, a rifle that functions just like the hunting rifle I grew up hunting with, that's one thing. That's not an assault rifle.
okay, well, let's talk about the weapons that were used, the AR-15s that were used in Uvalde, Las Vegas, Buffalo, Boulder, Orlando, Parkland, Nashville, San Diego. Very similar types of weapons that were used in some of the biggest mass shootings in this country. I'm
And
specific. I'm specifically talking about those weapons that were built for one reason and one reason only, not for self-defense, to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time. Those are the weapons that I'm talking about, and I don't think that everyday citizens like you and me should be allowed to have those weapons because I don't think we should use them for self-defense because that's not what they're for.
well, Brian, I mean, I'd say this without, as you know, you asked me on here as I understand as a lawyer.
Sure.
And as a lawyer, my answer to you is a bill of rights, not a bill of needs. It's not a bill of what I think you should have. Once upon a time in the state I grew up in, people didn't think that certain people should be able to vote based on their skin color.
Mhm.
So what one group of people in our country thinks another group should have, needs to have, wants to have is not really relevant to the conversation. We, the people enshrined in our, and this goes back to what the Supreme Court recently ruled. We, the people enshrined in our Constitution, a Bill of Rights. And that Bill of Rights says that there's a right to bear arms in defense of ourselves and in defense of our constitutional form of government. And we should have suitable weapons to do so. The founders, in their minds, individual citizens could own cannons and warships. So I don't think an AR-15 is such a stretch. They do ban us from owning fully automatic M16s, which even that I have a problem with that being banned. I don't believe that there should be limits on people having those type of arms that are suitable for military use because we are all supposed to be part of the militia. That's the way our founding fathers intended.
So, but I would say when the Bill of Rights was written, especially the Constitution, we had something called muskets. I think technology changes, weaponry changes, but by your standards of what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
you have no problem with people owning grenades, tankers. I mean, where does it end?
Well, I mean, I would say that the standard, the way the court has interpreted it to date, has been those weapons capable and in common use amongst most of the citizenry. AR-15s are undeniably the most common rifle in use by the citizenry. This guy that had a gun yesterday,
Mhm.
he is the epitome of what everybody tells us every background check should have protected us from this person of anybody, right? I mean, if we can't trust the guy that is in the United States Army, is an instructor for the United States Army, is a currently serving reservist, If we can't trust that guy not to some point have a problem, can we trust anybody? And that includes the people that are part of government.
He shouldn't have been allowed to have a gun. This is somebody that had a
That's
criminal
the question.
record. Yeah, well, I mean, the guy had a criminal record, and
I haven't seen that. What was his record? Please.
uh, they haven't gone into detail. All they've said is he has a criminal record. I don't have that in front of me, but what I do know is he checked himself into a mental health facility for 2 weeks. The guy should have never had a gun to begin with. I'm not saying every Democrat is perfect. By the way, they're not.
Well, I know.
But here's where we fundamentally disagree on a couple things. First of all, I disagree with that premise because I believe Democrats for decades now have been trying to do a hell of a lot more than Republicans have been trying to do. In fact, Republicans are making it easier for people to get access to guns. Where I believe Joe Biden and you can disagree with what the
No, I don't never disagree on that.
yeah, but you can disagree on Joe Biden's policies and an assault weapons ban that he wants to pass. We can disagree on that, but as a whole, Republicans care more about their A+ rating from the NRA. Democrats could give two craps what their rating is from the NRA, and I think that speaks volumes of where the two parties are at right now. I would say my definition of a hypocrite is somebody that calls themselves pro-life. I'm not speaking about you. I don't know what your stance is on that, but Republicans in office today that call themselves pro-life and they're so concerned about the unborn child, but then when that child is born, they don't want to put anything on the books to make us safer. Now, if your opinion is more guns are the answer, obviously we fundamentally disagree on that. I don't think more guns in society makes us safer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one side that says more guns are safer. I'm obviously on the side of less guns, but I think fundamentally we also both want the same thing. We obviously don't want innocent people to be hurt or die. And in my personal, and I think you'll agree with me on this, we need more conversations like this. And
Sure.
I think we need to come somewhere in the middle. And some people might not like that. But obviously, Eric, what we're doing now is not working. Right now, what we're doing as a society is
I
not
agree.
working. And we have to make changes. Now, you might disagree, or I might disagree with some of those changes. We need to make changes. And there are not enough lawmakers in Washington that are willing to raise their hand and say, I'm willing to do that. I think most Democrats are. And I think Republicans need to say, you know what? I don't agree with the Democrats on everything. Let's sit down and talk. Republicans, many of them don't even want to talk about this stuff. They say thoughts and prayers, which I think is so disrespectful, to what is going on in society as a whole, because we hear it after every mass shooting. But, I guess we got to end it there. But I can tell you this, sir, I'd love to have this conversation with you
I'd
again.
love to come back.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it with you. And I think as Americans, we need to have more of these conversations. And I do respect your opinion, Eric, and I appreciate you coming on the show, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate that. In my personal opinion, as I've talked about assault weapons a lot on this show, there was an assault weapons ban in the early 90s. It worked. Gun violence was down. If you don't believe me, you can go look that up yourself. Then it fizzled out because of Republicans. I know that might be a shocker to some of you. Republicans allowed this bill to fizzle out. There is no reason why anybody in this country needs an AR-15 to defend themselves. I don't want to take all your guns away. I think if you're a law-abiding citizen and you're not a felon, you should be allowed to purchase guns and you should be allowed to defend yourself. I have a serious problem with someone that turns 18 years old. The day they turn 18, they're allowed to walk into a gun store like the Uvalde shooter did the day he turned 18. You want to make it easier for people to have guns, like so many other lawmakers that are on the right in Washington. What are your solutions? You think more guns are going to make us safer? It's not a coincidence that per 100 people in this country, per capita, we have 140 guns. We are obsessed with guns in this country. It is a gun-obsessed culture in the United States of America. Don't talk about mental illness when there are mentally ill people all over the world. What makes us unique? Culture, the gun culture in this country. When we have lawmakers, politicians, idiots like Lauren Boebert, and I'm also going to throw Mike Johnson in that mix too. He's also an idiot because when you talk about prayer and you have nothing of substance to say after another mass shooting, you're an idiot. Johnson is an embarrassment to this country, like so many on the evangelical right. What are your solutions? Have you heard any logical solutions from Republicans on this issue? Ever? After the Uvalde shooting, it was basically, according to Ted Cruz, lock the door, harden our schools. As if locking a door would have been a deterrent for this 18-year-old madman who had just shot his grandmother in the face. You think a locked door would have stopped him from going into that school and killing a bunch of innocent kids? Of course not. It's ridiculous, just like everything else in the Republican Party. They care more about an A-plus rating from the NRA than they do your life or my life or our children's lives. They'll talk about abortion and how it's, the worst thing in the world, killing our children every day. They'll call women murderers. But then when it comes to somebody with an AR-15 going in there executing a bunch of kids, they're mum on the issue. They'll just throw their hands in the air and say, there's really not much we can do.
Yeah, hi, Brian. And, today's comments on Tulsi Gabbard and RFK and Kash Patel, you stated outrightly that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset.
I believe she is, yeah.
How can you make that?
Sure.
How can you make that statement? What's the proof?
Sure. So, first of all, Tulsi Gabbard, like Donald Trump, failed to call out Vladimir Putin for anything. In fact, when she is asked, like when Donald Trump is asked, who do you want to win this war in the Ukraine? If you're not willing to answer that question and say we want Ukraine, our allies, to win after they were invaded by an evil, murderous dictator, then I think most people would consider that person an asset to Russia. Number two, do you remember after 9/11, when we had terrorists across the country, including the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, celebrating and jumping up? Well, guess what? After it was announced that Tulsi Gabbard was picked by Donald Trump, there's video evidence that when the Kremlin and Russians learned about this, they were doing the same types of celebrating. So you have somebody that is not willing to call out Vladimir Putin for anything, by the way, the war atrocities, you name it, the war crimes, you name it. They're actually praising Vladimir Putin the way Donald Trump does, the way Donald Trump coddles him every day, sending him COVID test kits during COVID, right? And you have a woman who also has cozied up to Assad. Now, Republicans, even MAGA Republicans on Capitol Hill, have said that has raised serious concerns, and they want to ask her about that. She has never called out Assad, who was an evil, murderous dictator. Thank God I say was. And guess who brought Assad in and protected him and his family? Guess, JD, the Russians. Yes, that's right. Vladimir Putin. So I stand by everything I've said about Tulsi Gabbard. There's plenty of evidence to back up everything that I just said.
Well,
she is unqualified.
let me just say,
She is unqualified for the position, and she is dangerous. Go ahead.
Let me say something else. She's a colonel in the Reserve National Guard and controls the National Guard of 2 states.
Which doesn't take away anything that I just said, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, but why wouldn't she be investigated by the Army if she was an asset, a dangerous, treasonous asset?
Well,
there'd be some kind of speculation or investigation.
Interesting you brought that up.
Interesting
you brought that up because she was actually on a flight list. If you can look that up, if you don't believe me,
I know. I know the whole story about her and her husband.
Okay, so it's not like she hasn't been investigated, and it's not like there aren't a ton of concerns. And by the way, she won't talk about Assad now. She won't even bring up his name when asked about it. So yes, I'm not the only person that has these concerns. I know you might think that only me or only lefties might think that way. I'm not a lefty.
No.
Okay, then I'm misjudging you, but I'm telling you that there are a lot of Republicans and even MAGA Republicans on Capitol Hill that have serious concerns with her.
I would think that the senators, Democrats who are in charge of the chairs, and Republicans who are the next in line on the foreign affairs committees would know about any of this.
Some of them do.
When she comes up for confirmation, then maybe we'll get an up or down vote.
Well, I hope that they do that. But you mentioned
that precise issue.
You mentioned a couple other people, and I didn't bring up Kash Patel today. I think you did, but I'm happy to talk about Kash Patel with you. But I look at a guy like a Pete Hegseth, a man who is a despicable human being, who has been accused allegedly of rape, and I understand
I heard it.
I know.
I heard it.
So you dismiss all that stuff? He openly admits.
No,
that
I didn't. I only have so much time. You have mentioned Patel. He was a federal prosecutor in the U.S. Department of Justice.
And Pete Hegseth also served this country as well. Just because you're an attorney, there are millions of attorneys in this country, doesn't mean you're qualified to run the FBI. Kash Patel, well, first of all the guy cares about is money. He's a grifter, selling his boots and his shirts. He's talked about going after people like me, going after members of the media that are not willing to say that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. How do we know this? Because he said it in a podcast. He wants to shut down the FBI headquarters and turn it into a museum. And you think that's the guy that should be running the FBI, who's only going to go after Donald Trump's enemies, including members of the media?
he just wants. He's not going to shut down the FBI if he becomes the director. He just wants to maybe move some of the FBI agents in the field.
Well, he said he was going to
the
turn
country
that very building. He said he was
yeah,
going to turn that very building
instead
into
of
a museum. So we shouldn't take him for his
instead
word.
of
Then
keeping them all in Washington D.C.
should we go after?
And,
should we be going after members of the media that are not willing to say that Trump won the 2020 election? Because Kash Patel wants to do that. He said.
Of course not.
Okay, well, okay, I agree with you.
We
Patel said that.
we all know that there's a lot of venting and a lot of
Venting.
characters
So
on
you're
both sides that talk out of both sides of their mouth.
okay. So can you give me an example of a Democrat that's a high member of office in the Joe Biden administration that said he wants to arrest people for not agreeing with them?
I would think Adam Schiff might fall in that category.
Adam Schiff has never said he wanted to arrest Republicans because they might not agree with him on an election result. So that is completely false. Can you give me an example of a Democrat that has said the enemy within, let's go after and arrest people, either civil suits or arrest criminal charges, if they're not willing to say that Donald Trump won the 2020 election? That's what Kash Patel said 3 months ago.
How long are we going to keep milking that 2020 election cow?
You're the one,
It's over.
JD, you're the one who just brought up Kash Patel. And I'm giving you examples of things Kash Patel said. By the way, it was Patel that brought it up 3 months ago on a podcast. I'm just reiterating the things he said he wants to do if he's in charge, in this case, the FBI. He said himself 3 months ago that he wants to go after members of the media that are not willing to say that Trump won and talk about the 2020 fraud. And there was no fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. I'm only bringing this up because you don't seem to have a problem with that.
No, I do. If that's true,
it is, JD. I'm not making it up.
I think his main beef with the media is when he worked with Nunes on diffusing and completely destroying the Russian collusion with Mueller investigation. He was intimately involved in that, and he found out all the things that the Democrats are trying to do that they manufactured in the Russian collusion with Trump during the campaign in 2016 and after he was elected.
All right, so let's talk about that.
I'm happy all of it turned out to be totally baloney.
Okay, so first of all, that's not true. There's many people in that Mueller report that would say that there are multiple examples of obstruction, and even Mueller under oath said that as well. So I would disagree with your characterization, number one. Number two, you talked about you have a problem with people that manufacture things, okay? Let's talk about that for a moment. When the man who you supported and voted for manufactured a claim that the election was stolen, did you have a problem with that? Did you have a problem with the 8 investigations into Benghazi when Hillary Clinton was accused of crimes and Republicans?
You want to stay on one question at a time?
Okay. Do you have a problem with Republicans?
You started off with the 2020 election.
Sure. Do you have a problem with that manufacturing, as you pointed out? Were you crying to high heaven?
Well, the full spectrum of the election is not what Trump says as far as being cheating is what have you. The things that happened prior to the election with the Pennsylvania legislature, with the Supreme Court in Wisconsin, how they changed the rules, how they changed the election law.
Said the election was stolen and the Democrats cheated. That is a manufactured statement. You don't have a problem with that statement?
He's speaking in broad terms that you and I don't understand.
No. He's speaking. No. I understand
all the things that were done.
I understand
all the things that were done pre-election.
I understand it very clearly, and I'll explain it to you. And if you disagree, that's fine. I understand it very clearly, and I'm going to speak in truths here very clearly. If Donald Trump loses, the election was rigged. If Donald Trump wins, we don't have to have the conversation of election integrity and everything went well. It's very simple, JD. He loses, it's rigged and they cheated. He wins, everything worked out great. Why is that so hard for you to admit?
Well, there were so many irregularities regarding to the drop boxes. How about Zuckerberg? $419 million into the inner city.
Not true.
To get the vote out.
There's no. Oh, really? Did you have a problem with Elon Musk giving $1 million to people to register to vote for Donald Trump? I didn't hear you complaining about that. You want to talk about Mark Zuckerberg and you laugh? Did you have a problem with Elon Musk weeks bore the election?
Yes, I did. I thought it was
Oh,
stupid.
okay. Well, so that's just stupid, but you don't want to bring that up. But when it comes to Zuckerberg
You
donating,
brought it up. I can't.
right? Because
Hey,
I'm,
by the way,
I'm bringing up your hypocrisy. That's why, JD.
Before I forget, where's Meathead? Where's Chris Wynn? I miss him.
Well, I don't know where Chris is. You could give him a call and you could ask him, my friend. I appreciate the call.
You don't
JD.
have him on your show?
I appreciate the call, JT. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. So let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg. He gave $419 million to inner city youth. I don't know, whatever JD was bringing up. But when it comes to Elon Musk and $1 million, millions of dollars, giving people $1 million to vote for Donald Trump, oh, well, that was stupid. But let's move on. Let's talk about something else. He has a problem with people manufacturing issues and problems and lies. Okay, that's the entire Republican Party today. They manufacture stuff about drag queen reading, like the sky is falling. They manufacture stuff about trans women going into women's bathrooms. They're all going to assault you. They manufacture things about illegals. They make it sound like every person in this country that's illegal is going to rape your children and kill your family. The entire Republican Party manufactures things. They want to blame Joe Biden for all of their problems, for their hangnail. Forget about the war in the Middle East. Forget about the war in the Ukraine, inflation up all over the world, but let's manufacture, to use JD's terms, that it's all Joe Biden's fault. They want to manufacture everything. The entire Republican Party is the manufactured party. They want to manufacture the fact that Joe Biden has committed crimes and he's a war criminal. They want to manufacture the fact that all the problems in the world are all Joe Biden's fault. But then when Donald Trump takes office, let's blame George Soros. Yeah, okay. The man who manufactures $3 Bibles in China and sells them for $60 here. Yeah, okay, that guy. Yeah, all right, JD.
So I'm trying to have civil dialogue. So
Fair
I would
enough.
be considered a conservative, right?
That's totally fine.
And I do agree at the federal level, yes. It's not the Republican position to move towards gun laws because we're very much so Second Amendment enthusiasts, right? So I do agree with it. But I'm also living in Philadelphia, and my background, just for the LEO that's sitting there, is yes, I'm also a former cop as well as a veteran of both the United States Army and the United States Marine Corps. And so my issue is these are very complicated issues, and I usually side with the rights of the people, right? And so when I've heard you guys talk about the red flag laws, I'm very skeptical just because of Fourth Amendment violations, right? I think that I don't like the due process part of the red flag laws.
Okay, so listen, David, I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's just agree to disagree on red flag laws. I want to hear from you, a former cop and someone who served.
Yeah.
What are some of your solutions that you think Democrats and Republicans should get together and do?
I think that, what I'm seeing here locally, and I want to get the LEO, the lieutenant's position on this, is a lot of the local laws is what's hindering us, right? So let's say in Philadelphia, they got rid of Terry searches, which was one of the strong tools that we used to use to be able to not really pat down, but be able to frisk for weapons. So it's a hindrance for us to be able to, I think it was about a year ago, we had a mass shooter in Philadelphia, but the Philadelphia cops weren't allowed to do the basics that would be able to even consensually stop this guy with an AR-15.
Let me say a couple of things. Philadelphia is a one in a 100,000 example. They're very left, very liberal, so they stopped the stop and frisk and the Terry engagement. But being a police officer, and I'm not saying this with hubris at all, I'm saying in a very humble way, only because I was a street cop most of my career and a supervisor for more than half of my career. And so if you're trained properly, you should be able to interact with someone and get the information that you want to get without saying, hey, stop, reasonable suspicion, I'm patting you down. I mean, if you know how to talk to people and you know the laws, and if they're not breaking a law and you don't have a reason to stop them, that's why they got in trouble, because they were stopping everybody and saying everybody looks suspicious, and you can't do that. But I think a reasonable cop, I know the police officers that were under me as a sergeant and lieutenant, I never had any issues with any of that ever, because they were very well trained and they knew what they could and could not do. And they were taught. If you can't get it, if you
Yeah,
think they're guilty, if you
and
think
so
they're doing something
I don't want
wrong,
to like talk
if you
over
think
you, but I
they're
want to interject real quick.
well, let
'Cause
me
I-
just say,
'cause
they were
you're-
taught to
yeah, go
walk
ahead.
away. If you can't get what you want
Yeah.
from the person, don't violate their rights. Walk away. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so going back to that, Philadelphia is one of those areas where I said the Democrats, we have very strong gun laws in Philadelphia. It's even stronger than a lot of the other cities within, because I think you guys understand how Pennsylvania works.
Yes.
Philadelphia is very, very strong when it comes to gun laws. But the problem is, as I said, Democrats hurt themselves at the local level. So there's a lot of conversation to be had about, are you hindering yourself from being able to get after something?
David, here's where we disagree. Here's where we disagree, David. And I guess I'll put it like this. Let me ask you this. Are you comfortable with a kid when they turn 18 years old, no matter what state you live in, the day you turn 18, walking into a gun store, never carried a weapon before, buying thousands of rounds of ammunition and several assault weapons? Are you okay with that? It's a very basic question. Forget about Democrats and
Yeah.
Republicans or where it is. Are you okay with that?
Yes, yes, actually I am.
Okay, well, that's a fundamental disagreement that we have, because I don't think we should have assault weapons out there in society, and I don't think that 18 years old, never trained how to use a weapon. I'm not comfortable with that, and I think we are a country that is obsessed with our guns.
You have to have reasonable laws.
Yeah,
I don't. You can't just say open card and good luck.
So I wanted to ask you a question then, based upon that question, right?
Sure.
So can you define an assault weapon to me?
I get this.
That's like been the biggest thing that I've tried to understand from the left.
Okay, well, I'm not from the left. I'm a registered independent who doesn't want innocent people to die. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I'm for capital punishment. I'm for border security. And I don't know why people automatically assume, because I don't want innocent people to die, and I think our gun laws need to be stricter, for lack of a better term, that I'm on the left. I don't know why people do that. So you're wrong about that. That's number one. Number two, okay? I get into the weeds with people all the time when it comes to assault weapons. And I will be the first one to admit to you, I'm not an expert when it comes to guns. You probably know a lot more about guns, and certainly Leonard does, than I do. But here's what I will tell you. The types of guns that were used in Las Vegas that killed 61 people, the types of guns that were used in the Columbine shooting, the biggest mass shootings in American history were used with assault weapons. The types of guns that were built not to defend yourself, but to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time. Now, I'm more interested, sir, in having a conversation with you about solutions, and I haven't really heard any from you. I've only heard you criticize red flag laws. I've heard you wanting to get into the weeds with me, with all due respect.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah, just one second. I've heard you get into the weeds with me about what is an assault weapon, but I haven't really heard you. All I've heard you do is criticize Democrats. I want to know real solutions.
So I guess the reason why I'm probing the answers is to try to find a common ground, because a lot of my mindset is based upon the people's rights. When people throw out an assault weapon, right, I want it defined, because, and I think that's been the biggest problem in our communication gap, is, can you define it?
Well,
let me interrupt.
Do we have the right to own a grenade? Do citizens have the right to own?
Go back to an AR-15, but I really wanted
assault
to quickly
weapons
cite
are weapons that were primarily designed for military. Okay, and they generally are high capacity. They generally have a louder. They're usually louder, and they do more damage by the nature of their
the definition
caliber.
is usually belt fed, gas operated, got that whole thing. The problem is when people use that to take AR-15s, which is covered, by the way, underneath the Heller decision, underneath common use. And that's why I'm saying it's a right that's protected of the people for the AR-15.
Okay, so let me ask you another question then. If you want to speak about rights, does that mean that people should have the right to own a tanker, a bomb, a grenade? Where do we draw the line? Where do you draw the line? What should people not be allowed to have?
The lines are already drawn. There's already rules on that.
Okay, so nothing could be changed with the Constitution, even though when they wrote the Constitution, we had something called muskets, but you're not willing to change anything? Does that mean we should be allowed to own human beings?
The veteran side of me is very cautious about the government itself disarming the populace, especially when I went through Iraq.
How are they disarming? But sir, I respect your service, but how are they disarming the populace? I'm not saying we all shouldn't be allowed to have guns.
AR-15s, right? If you move to take AR-15s, the whole premises of the Second Amendment is for the individual American.
A well-regulated militia.
We're not even close. We're not even close to AR-15s.
No. Real quick. You need to cite Heller v. D.C. 2008.
So what are your
That's
see?
it.
This is
That-
my
that-
problem,
in that
David.
I know, but
decision,
just because
the
a case
Supreme
law,
Court ruled it is the individual right to keep and bear arms outside of a well-regulated militia.
okay, but that's
Outside of it.
but that's a blanket statement. It's non-specific. We're talking about
You know, it's not.
AR-15s, and I'm telling
that's
you
literally the,
that
I'm
that is one of the
literally citing
favorite,
Supreme
most
Court
favorite
precedent.
guns of all Americans, and no legislation, I don't think, at this point in our history is going to pass to ban
Yeah, I agree.
AR-15s. That's why I
Yeah.
advocate for let's take a smaller bite.
I agree.
Let's do easier things. Let's do
Right.
things that
Yeah.
have more regulations and
But-
make common
But
sense.
Leonard, David, I'm speaking to you now.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, thank you
Okay.
for your service to this country. I respect you, and you're a hero for that, even though we really disagree on this issue. But David,
Yeah.
respectfully, this is my biggest issue with this conversation. I haven't heard any solutions from you. All I've heard from is you talk about the Second Amendment, you talk about the Constitution, you like to blame Democrats for what's going on in
Banning
Philadelphia.
ARs is not a
Okay,
solution.
I understand. But David,
Yeah.
I'm coming up with solutions that you might not agree with. Okay, fine. I haven't heard one solution out of your
I
mouth.
think that it's trying to find common ground. I think that we both have these.
So
issues.
so
I
give
think
me
that we can
something.
both
Give me a
agree on
solution.
mental health.
Okay,
I
but what
think
does
we
that
can both
mean?
agree on mental health
But what does that mean?
solutions.
Republicans don't want to put money into helping people that are mentally deranged. And if you don't believe me, you could go to Washington, D.C. and look at all the bills they vote against when Democrats are trying to help people that are mentally ill. So Republicans, you could blame for that one. Now, the word, I agree with you. We don't want bad people, mentally ill people getting their hands on a gun. All three of us agree on that. But that's not a bill and that's not a solution. Give me an actual solution. What would you do, David, if you were a lawmaker? Because all I hear from you is, you know, this is not an assault weapon. Let's get into the weeds on what an assault weapon is.
I think that
On that mental illness, who gets
the only
to say?
solution
Who gets to
the only
say?
solution I truly have, and I'm going to be honest, is as the Constitution states, is my position to uphold the Second Amendment. Now, when it comes to, and the reason
not a
being, as
Second
I
Amendment
said,
issue.
is I care about the individual American and their right to be able to protect themselves against the possible tyranny of a government.
So you don't have any solutions then,
When
obviously.
you're talking in terms of solutions, we are a long way
Yeah.
from changing the Second Amendment. So that's
David, you sound like you're a nice guy, okay? You really do. And we can disagree. That's good. I like
That's the whole
disagreeing.
point. We're
Okay, but
supposed to
David,
disagree.
okay, I agree. Okay, fine. But you haven't given me any solutions. And I get frustrated
I
with
think the solutions, as I said, is enable the police officers, right? Enable at the state function. We're talking about federally. You're really not going to change the Republicans' position at the federal. But at the state, enable the law enforcement agencies to do the background check stuff correctly, which, you know, people like Hunter Biden.
they
you
do
can't really be
background
letting them
checks.
off of
Police
things
do
like that.
background checks. What do you,
But
Leonard, you can help me on that
The
one.
whole background check stuff, that's just normal. We already do it. But actually enabling us to get after things like gun charges.
I don't know any state that
Philadelphia.
doesn't have a background
Like,
check.
we cannot get after things in Philadelphia. Like, I wanted to say real quick, and then I'll go, which is for the lieutenant, we are so handicapped at that city level underneath to where we can't even stop people for minor traffic infractions. How do you get to that probable cause aspect if you got somebody that's got these illegal guns in there? If you can't even pull them over for things like that, for reasonable suspicion, you can't even pull people
David,
over.
let me
for,
interrupt. I
you know,
understand.
failure to
Hang on,
change
David.
or
Hang
maintain
on.
lane.
Hang on, David.
I understand.
Go
You're
ahead.
saying all politics is local, and I understand that. But we're talking on a bigger scale, because when you start to go state to state, like I said, Arizona, you could be 21 years old, just walk in, buy a gun, and if your son or daughter is over 18, you can just give it to them, and it's their gun.
Yeah. So, Leonard, I'm glad that David called. David, I'm glad you called in. But this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I get into gun control debates. David wanted to debate me on what's an assault weapon. He wanted to blame Democrats for what's going on in Philadelphia. He talks about the Second Amendment and the Constitution. Okay, we could agree
He
to
was
disagree.
talking about city
However,
legislation.
right. However, this is what I want people to take away from this conversation. David had zero solutions. You can disagree with Leonard's solutions. You can disagree with Brian's solutions. Why am I talking to the third? I don't know, first person. But at least we're coming up with some solutions. David, next time you call into this show, give me some solutions. Police officers are already doing background checks in every state in this
That's
country.
the second caller in
Yeah.
a row that really
Yeah,
didn't.
you have no solutions. Everybody that wants to debate me or you on this issue, literally has no real solutions. And that is why the Republican Party is at fault, in my opinion, a big reason why we can't pass comprehensive background checks in this country.
Can I just say real quick?
Yeah.
His two main points were assault weapons shouldn't be banned and Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So we're not even in the ballpark talking about
No.
those types of changes.
No. And by the way, people on Brian, you haven't given any solutions. I've named you 5 or 6.
We could say them again.
Yeah,
whenever
okay,
you're ready.
I'll say it one more time so again the people could get the MAGA wax out of their ears and listen, okay? I personally believe there should be some sort of mandatory training, maybe a 2-hour class, teach you how to hold the weapon, teach you how to shoot a weapon, how to store the weapon. That's it, just 2 hours. I understand driving a car is a privilege, but in my opinion, you have to take a test when you get your driver's license. You have an instructor. Same thing with a gun. Give me a 2-hour mandatory
Nevada
training
used
class.
to have that. You
Right.
used to have to take a class for a gun safety permit.
Right.
And we did it away with it in 2015. And you know who controlled the legislature in Nevada
Who's
in
that?
2015? It wasn't the Democrats.
Yeah, what a shocker.
And they got rid of the gun registration
Shocker.
completely.
Yeah. So that's number 1. Number 2, raise the age to 18 to 21. Number 3, we need to have an assault weapons ban like we had in the early 90s when gun violence was way down and then Republicans allowed it to fizzle out. Yes, I do believe red flag laws need to be more consistent and put on the books as well. Yes, I do believe that our laws should be stronger. If you sell an illegal gun or you're caught with an illegal gun, I do believe there should be a mandatory
about ghost
prison
guns?
sentence. And ghost guns. That's all in there.
3D printing.
Absolutely. I agree with you 150% on that. Now, we just named 6 things, right? Give me 2 of those. And don't tell me we're not coming up with solutions because I haven't heard one from some of you maggots out there. We just gave you 6. Give me 2 of those
Do
things.
we need a barrel magazines that hold 250 rounds? Do we need? I can go right now to a gun store locally and buy one that has 100 with 2 drums, one on each side, and they're legal. There's no law against them.
You want to talk about Hunter Biden, okay? But I've never heard you. You want to talk about a double standard? Why don't we discuss the $2 billion that Jared Kushner got? Would you like to talk about that, Rhonda?
If we have a conversation,
Let's do
Brian.
it. Let's do it. I've never heard you bring that up. Is that a double standard?
Have you ever brought it up?
The $2 billion?
You're bringing it up
every
now,
day
aren't
on
you?
this show.
And this was their situation that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are in right now, that people wouldn't be yelling from the top of their lungs that Donald Trump is selling out our country. It is very dangerous
Gotcha.
when people let their political views get in the way of the security and safety of this country.
Let's talk about that. I'm so glad you brought up the word double standard because Jared Kushner was working for Donald Trump. He accepted a $2 billion payment from the Saudis. Donald Trump didn't send Mike Pompeo out there to Saudi Arabia. Oh, no, it wasn't Mike Pompeo that was sent out there. Guess who it was, Rhonda? It was Jared Kushner, and they wrote him a $2 billion check. By the way, not a private citizen was Jared Kushner. What about Donald Trump's daughter, if you'd like to talk about double standards? She made an excess of $600 million, but I don't hear people like you talking about that. You want to talk about a double standard? You people are obsessed
You people.
with Hunter Biden's
You
penis.
people.
Yes.
Did you just say you people?
Yes, Republicans.
Thanks for qualifying that.
Oh, you want to bring the race
I'm
out
not.
now?
No. I'm saying you said you people. You know that is like you don't say you
MAGA
people.
Republicans. I don't care if you're black, yellow, blue,
MAGA
green, or
Republic-
red.
So I'm a
you
MAGA
don't want to talk about.
I'm a MAGA
you want to talk
Republican.
You want to talk about
I'm a-
Hunter. I don't hear you bring it up. You want to talk about Hunter Biden. What did Hunter Biden do?
What did Hunter Biden do?
Yeah, tell me. What did he do involving Joe Biden? What did they do? How has it been proven that Joe Biden broke the law?
So you're saying that, and then we'll get back to the other thing. You're telling me that it's okay for Hunter Biden to make deals with China involving the big man.
You're an attorney. Where was the law broken? What laws did Joe Biden break?
Besides having a foreign
What
government?
specific law did he break?
Do you want me to look it up? Because I'm sorry, but I don't have the whole United States Code
So
in
you
my
can't
head.
tell me the
I
law
can look
that
it
he
up.
broke.
I can look it up. No, I can't tell you the exact.
But Joe
law that
Biden
he
broke the law.
Yes, he did.
And what was the law?
Because this is
did
what
he do?
prosecutors do. You know what prosecutors
What did he do?
They take the facts and then they look at the code sections
You
and
haven't
say
given me
you
any
violated
facts.
this, and this.
I'm
and
asking
this.
you for facts.
I just said it, and
What did
you
he
said,
do?
and then you asked me, well, what law did he break?
Yeah.
And I'm asking you, do you think it's okay for Hunter Biden to make deals with foreign governments like China
Mm-hmm.
and sell access to his father, who was the vice president and president of the United States?
That
Do you
has-
think that's okay?
that
And you're
has
saying
not
that
been
is breaking. That hasn't been proven.
It hasn't been proven that Joe Biden was involved in any of Hunter Biden's business
It
dealings.
hasn't been proven that Donald Trump is guilty of any of the crimes that he was indicted for. But it's okay for you to say that he's guilty, right?
So first of all, I never said on this show that he was guilty. But what I did say is that he's facing 91 felony counts and he was indicted.
You said that he did this, he did that, he did that as an affirmative. You didn't say
allegedly.
You said he did this, he did that.
Now,
That's what you said.
if you're telling me, do I believe Donald Trump is going to be a felon, a convicted felon? The answer would be yes.
I don't care and I can tell you right now that if there was politically driven prosecution on Democrats, I'd be having the same issues, because at the end of the day, my north light and my guiding light is the Constitution.
Which
no
Donald
matter
Trump
who
wants to
you,
rip up.
no matter who or what side of the aisle you belong on, this country protects all of its citizens with the United States Constitution.
So if you're a constitutionalist, then what do you think about Donald Trump saying that he wanted to abolish the Constitution? He said that multiple times in the last couple of years. What are your thoughts on that, and why would you vote for somebody like that if you're a constitutionalist?
Well, first of all, you're going to have to give me a source, because Donald Trump, from what I've seen, has done nothing but protect
I'll give you
the
a direct
Constitution.
quote in our next segment.
Protect the Constitution.
I'll give you a
but
direct quote.
But in fact, if Donald Trump came out today and announced that he wants to abolish the Constitution, I would not support that.
Okay.
But I don't believe he ever would say that.
So he has said he wanted to rip up parts of the Constitution. I know that 100% because I've actually read it on the air. You said that Democrats, the reason why Joe Biden can't be indicted is because he's a sitting president.
Because we're selling out to foreign countries.
And there's no evidence that Joe Biden did that.
There's no, you know what? It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? That's what we're doing right here. There's no evidence because there's no investigation.
There's no evidence.
because
Rhonda, you're an
there's
attorney.
no investigation.
In order there to be an investigation, there has to be a reason why they're investigating. You do know that,
yes,
right?
I do.
You
And
don't
the
just
reason why
investigate
they're
somebody.
investigating, and they could, it's enough that all the information that was on Hunter Biden's
You have the information
laptop,
that was on Hunter Biden's
it's
laptop?
all over the media. Even the liberal stations are talking about it, and briefly, but now it just miraculously
What
went
did Joe
away.
Biden do? Where's the evidence on Hunter Biden's
It's
laptop?
conversations that he is talking about the big guy, which they're referring to as his dad, Joe Biden. I mean, just like there's wiretaps that would happen with the mob, there's wiretaps that happen with criminal organizations today, gang members and all that. They all have their code names. That's Joe Biden. But if you're not looking and investigating, of course you're not going to find any evidence, because they don't want to find any evidence. And you keep going back to Donald Trump's 91 counts and his indictments. However, the difference is that there are indictments because the FBI and the DOJ chose to investigate these alleged crimes instead of these alleged crimes.
Okay. I don't know what alleged crimes you're speaking of when it
I
comes to
just said it.
I know.
Okay, let's start with espionage.
You made a statement about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Let's talk about giving American secrets. And let's talk about giving American
There's
secrets.
no evidence that Joe Biden gave Americans.
And giving advantages
Where's your
over
evidence
foreign
that
companies.
Where did you hear that Joe Biden gave American secrets away for money? Where are you getting this stuff from? This is crazy stuff,
No,
Rhonda.
it's not crazy.
What we know is that Donald Trump gave away American secrets and gave it to people without security clearances. It's caught on audio. If you could find me an audio tape of Joe Biden doing that, then I'm with you.
An audio
Where's
tape.
the-
So we need to have it on audio tape. So now
We need to have evidence.
Now
There's gotta be something. You can't just say something.
And that is enough evidence, is what I'm telling
What
you,
is
to open
enough
an
evidence?
investigation.
That you're claiming that Joe Biden sold our secrets?
Did you see any of the things that were on Hunter Biden's laptop? Did you read some of the messages and the
So you had Hunter
conversations?
Biden's laptop? You work for the DOJ? You saw the information?
Did I say that?
Where did you get it from?
Did I say that?
Then where did you get it from?
From the things that were released.
And who released them and what entity?
CNN,
and what did
Fox,
you and what,
MSNBC.
So what did CNN release? Let's start with CNN.
Congress has them as well. So you're saying Congress is presenting
Okay,
false
so let's go with that for a
and-
moment.
and-
Hold on,
and-
I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's go with that. You're claiming that Congress has all the insides.
I didn't say all the
Hold on,
insides.
but some credible information of some wrongdoing or law break. Hold
The
on.
things that were found on Hunter
Gotcha.
Biden's
Okay.
laptop. Hunter
So if
Biden's
that's
laptop
the case,
information.
Gotcha. So if that's the case, and by the way, I don't know if you're aware, but Comer and the Republicans and attorneys, They've have subpoenas everywhere. They've had bank records. They've been investigating the Bidens forever. So if what you're saying is true, which I don't believe it to be true, but if it was true, and they would have access to the laptop, and if there was such wrongdoing on that laptop, they would have already presented it. They haven't. You know why? Because there's nothing there that correlates Joe Biden to committing a crime.
So you're speculating.
You're the one that's speculating. You
No,
say
I'm
you
not.
know
You
everything.
just said there's nothing there. You just said if.
Where is it? Where is
if.
it? If Congress has it, where is it? And why haven't the Republicans? They're trying. Republicans, I think we could agree, are trying to do everything they can to prove that Joe Biden broke the law.
And those things have been leaked, and those things have been talked about. But you know what? Let's go back to the Constitution. All right. There's 3 branches of government. Each one has their power. The Congress. Both houses of Congress, that's the legislative branch. They make laws, right? You know who
some do.
you know who enforces the law and investigates the lawbreakers? That's the executive branch. That's Joe Biden. Congress doesn't have the power to send the FBI and the DOJ out there to investigate. That's not within, there's a separation of powers. So if there really would be an investigation, a real investigation.
So the Republicans, that's not a real
the
investigation.
the executive branch would have to do
So you
it.
would agree then that Comer and Jim Jordan, that's not a real investigation, what they're doing with the Bidens. You're making that case, and I agree with you, right?
Because they
not
don't
a real
have,
investigation.
They don't have the power.
They have the power to subpoena,
They don't
interview
have
witnesses.
the power that the FBI. Oh my God! I mean, Brian, please. This can't
So that's
be
not a
serious.
real. That's not a
You
real
don't think?
investigation.
So you're telling me that you think Congress has equal power as the department?
Never
as the
said
DOJ?
Congress had. I never said.
Okay,
I never
so
said
the
Congress
same
had
thing-
equal
so
power. If I thought that Joe Biden was a threat to our democracy, you're damn right. I'd be saying the same thing.
And I want to say every single sitting politician who incited riots during the 2020 elections, during the riots, should be facing the same charges.
I agree.
That Donald Trump is.
I agree. Well, when it comes to incitement,
Well,
but Donald Trump is not facing an incitement
Well,
charge.
they
which I
actually
disagree.
did it. They actually got up there and actually told people to get out in the streets and tear SHIT up. So you're sitting member
You're
of
talking,
Congress.
Are you talking about
You're-
Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about sitting. I'm talking about city.
Oh.
Well, now
Well,
she's
Rudy
the mayor.
Giuliani's in a lot of legal trouble,
No,
and there
but
were
I'm not
others.
saying- You pivot.
There were
that's what
others
you
that
do,
incite.
pivot.
Well, no, you're
Are
talking
you sure?
about.
You should be a lawyer because you know how to
You're-
pivot very
you're-
well.
I'm
and
not
avoid-
pivoting. I
and
thought you
avoid
were.
questions.
Were you mentioning?
No, I was mentioning Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris incited violence.
Kamala Harris.
What did she do?
And
she say?
what's her name? She's the mayor of L.A. now. I mean,
What
she's
did
the one that told people to get out in the streets and tear SHIT
No,
up.
Maxine Waters did not say
And
that.
I didn't say
and
Maxine Waters.
I think most Americans don't care about, like drag queen reading or Hunter Biden's gun or his penis or transgenders and transgender surgery. So give me an example of AOC or
They talk about drag queens. They talk about
Democrats aren't talking
yes,
about
they are.
drag
They're
queens.
talking about it on the other.
No, they're not. They're responding to Republicans that are attacking drag queens.
And are they talking about it?
You think that's the same thing?
Are they talking about it?
Okay, Rhonda, let me
No, you
explain
said
you the
what
difference.
are they talking about it? You didn't
Okay,
say. You didn't
okay, I
say
think that's
originate.
absurd.
You didn't say originate.
Let me explain you the difference.
No.
No, I need to explain you the difference because I don't think you
I don't need you
understand
to
it, quite
explain to me
frankly.
the difference.
Okay, but I'm going to explain it anyway. I can't believe you think it's the same thing when Republicans will go after the LGBT community, or in this case, drag queens and drag queen reading, and some of them making incendiary comments like they're pedophiles, and then some Democrats, and I applaud them because I call out this nonsense too, try to tell them, hey, that's bigotry, that's wrong, let them live their lives, and you're comparing the two. That's absurd. Democrats are, for the most part, in my opinion, stand for equality.